Hello and welcome to Heather and Hops. My name is Kat, or Catherine, and I am a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. This is my little space on the internet where I have documented my knitting journey from day one through to now, where I have knitted quite some projects and connected with the community in a lovely way. I'm going to have a sip of drink. Maybe I should opt for the other one. However, so today I am having a coffee. I'm having a single shot because I haven't had a coffee in quite some time. So by the time I finish recording, I might be a liability, but that's okay because I'm at home on my own. Oh, hello, little Mai. I don't think she's just about in shot. So this is Audrey, the in-podcast kitten. She is over 3 years old. You're like 3.5 now, maybe nearly 4. But she's tiny. Anyway, I'm having a coffee because a kilo of coffee arrived today because Alex is an angel and bought some for my happy birthday, which is coming up next Monday. So I could finish the last of the coffee we had. Anyway, and on that note, I am very excited. If you've been here for a while, you'll have seen my top before. So this is my Cala Galdana top. I designed it while I was on a holiday last year. On the fly, I was really inspired by what I was seeing visually, in particular tiles and fencing and things. And I wanted to knit something that I could almost wear there. So this is this and that. After a long time of working it out, learning to grade, which I'm still very much new, like I say, it's not where my background lies, but with some support of some amazing test knitters and my wonderful tech editor, it's finally ready. And as a sort of, I don't know, a celebration, I'm gonna offer 30% off next Monday only. But yeah, very excited to be sending this out into the world. It is fantastic for the summer. I wear it all the bloody time. But anyway, yeah, I am genuinely really excited about that. So what else? Finished objects. Let's go small. So this weekend we did go and visit a friend, well, a few friends from afar. As I don't think we need to talk about that anymore. We should just assume that we're all doing the right thing. Otherwise, more turbulence. But anyway, socially distanced, friendship hangs meant that I finished a couple of hats. I'll show this one. So if you've been with me for a while, you might go, you've already knitted that. Yeah, I have. This is the Dreaming Slow hat, which is a pattern that I designed for Qing Fibre, which really needs updating because I've learned a lot since then. It does work, but in terms of wording, it could be better. But this is my Dreaming Slow hat, and it is, I did the medium size for I think this is the 8th time I've knitted this hat. And this is the 2nd time I've re-knitted the same hat because it's either been lost or taken. So I've had 3 of these hats, 1 being this one lost and 2 actually taken from my person, which is very sweet in a way, but it's not the sort of compliment I'd like because I'd obviously actually give it to someone if they were that desperate for such a thing, because I can knit it again. But I did knit it again, and I knit this using Drops Nepal in their black colour and Drops Kid Silk Mohair in their black, because I wear these hats all the time. I'm gonna ruin my hair, not that it was fantastic, but I love this hat. It's super warm and squishy, and I really like the shaping on the top. Yeah, simple, very simple hat, but it gets a lot of wear. And I was desperately after another black hat because my hair is a bit of a wild colour doing exactly what it wants to at the moment, so black is sensible. Not that we should always be sensible, but in a not so sensible colour, though fairly still, I knitted, it was initially for me, but it's definitely for Alex. Very simple hat. Again, I used my same stitch count as I did for my Dreaming Slow, but I adjusted it slightly, so I went down a needle size for the whole thing, since I was doing it in stockinette, and I only held the mohair single, whereas I held it double on the Dreaming Slow hat, and used my Ford colourway, which is one of a kind, unfortunately. I have only realised, only because I have not written it down anywhere, and I now have 3 objects knitted in it, and I really love it, and Alex is really stoked on this hat. He was like, nope, I won't wear it until you've recorded, so I will give it a little bit of a steam just so that it folds a bit nicely along the bottom. But other than that, a very simple hat that I truly love. It's a high twist BFL and mohair, and for the decreases, very simply, I wanted it to be a bit more I didn't want any lines, because I feel like Alex is a bit like me, and depends on the hat, but I didn't want any direct lines, so I just shuffled where the decreases were as I went round. Yeah. Very happy, short project, but 2 hats. And then this one, I might try and put it on, but it might be a bit warm, so I'll put it on very briefly. But I cast it on and finished it in the time that we last spoke, and I love it. So this is the Wrap Me Up cardigan, and I'll stand up. I will stand up and give it a twirl before I always do that a little bit funky. Again, I haven't even steamed this. I might give it a little steam and a little check. But I'm going to scooch this over a little bit so you can see it a bit better. So you need to just like get it on properly, and I'm not showing it off the best. But it's the Wrap Me Up cardigan by Plum Mum. And I guess I have quite a bit to say. So let me scooch back in. I'm gonna take it off already. Oh, what's she seen? That's little Audrey running across the roof. I best pause and let her in. I can't quite remember where we were, but Plum Mum cardigan. This is a gorgeous piece to wear. I did the smallest size and might be inclined to make another one with either the same gauge, maybe a similar needle size, maybe go down 1 and only using it the mohair held double, so it's a little bit lighter but a little bit smaller, because it's quite big for the smallest size on me. Or doing it in more of a heavier weight yarn and still going down a bit so that I get a tighter gauge. And by heavier weight, I do mean even holding a DK double or single with a mohair, something like that, so I get a not quite, even though this is still quite dense for mohair, not quite as loose gauge. But it's lovely. So I knitted this using drops mohair because it's actually, you know, I'd love to know more about how it's made, the ethics behind it. They're not particularly open, I don't think. I'd love to get in touch with someone and talk to them about it, but it is incredibly affordable, and this colour. So this is Sage Green, which is one of their new colours. Well, I think it's the only new colour, if I'm honest. but I really love the colour, and I think it will be fantastic in the summer evenings. It's super light to put in a bag, which I must get out of the habit of doing, and putting it in a tote bag on its own beforehand. But yeah, I can see it with just band t-shirts, but also really fancy things. So I think it's going to be a very useful piece. In regards to the pattern, I did use the needle that was recommended. I swatched and I really liked the fabric. But it's not badly written, but it's definitely been translated, and that I have no problem with that. But I would maybe suggest, if you're a new knitter, to either read it through and note down bits in your own way, or maybe ask someone for a little bit of help along the way. If you're, you've been knitting for quite a while and you've knit quite a few garments, you'll understand. But it's not that there's not enough information. In fact, there may be too much, and it's written kind of in a way that's a little bit confusing. I made sure that I personally noted down how many increases and where they were myself, in just a slightly different way that I found a lot easier to work from on the fly. But it produces a beautiful garment. I have also, it was recommended in the pattern, I did the flat version, so there is a version with a peplum bottom. Peplum bottom. I went for flat only because I know that that's more my style, but I did opt to add, not the whole way round, so you can see the front is fairly flat, but I added elastic in the back just to sort of give me a little bit more of a waist. I did find that because it was a little bit larger, it did lack a little bit of shape. And as you can see, it's just here and here. This was another option in the pattern, but I just wove it through where the bind off was, and it's got a lot of spring to it. It's fantastic. But yeah, a really easy knit once you're doing it, and a really enjoyable knit, and a lovely piece, but just a little bit fickle. Yeah, and that is all of my finished objects. Hooray! What else? What else? What else? So let's do things we've seen. So we have my shawl, which is my very Scottish shawl, is kind of how I'm referring to it at the moment. Last time I had completed down to about here, I think, and I've kind of made this up on the fly as I've gone along, with a little bit of intention, and so far I'm really pleased with it. So this colour I believe is Nugget by Qing Fibre. This, which I absolutely love, is a Norwegian mohair blend by a company called Telespin, which I just love that yarn. I have a sweater quantity's worth of the yarn, and it's one of those that's a little bit too special at the moment, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it, but I know it has to be exactly right, so I'm waiting. This one, which is gorgeous, is Lallybrock by Ginger Twist Studio. Ginger's had hand-dyed yarn, which is Jess, who owns the shop in Edinburgh. So this is Scottish to me. And then we have some Debbie Bliss, this fine tweed, I believe it's called, in the dark brown and the light brown. And then, so I got as far as knitting down, so what I did was added some old jail lace to the end. I did this one completely in stockinette, so I didn't have any pearl rows. Just because I kind of wanted this section to be a little bit textured but not very heavily. And then for the sides, so I'll explain. So I added a steek stitch, 5 steek stitches, and I kind of intended to steam this bit, the steek stitches, and then bring them through. So I have a bit of fringing, but we're not sure if that's going to happen. I am a bit of a plain Jane generally, so I'm thinking I probably won't. But for future, I think this is a technique that I might use again for a more rustic, simple shawl, but with, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But anyway, I did some more old shell lace in all of the colours along the edge. And then I finished one side and I picked up for the second. So that's where we're at with that one, and I really like it. I'm really pleased with how it's... Oh, I'm tangling my yarn around. Let's do it this way. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how she's knitting up and how it drapes. And from the back, I think it looks particularly lovely. So, yeah, my little bit of adventuring from home for the strange thing that is 2020. But I am really enjoying working on this, and it has been living in my duck pool laying bag, which could easily hold more yarn, if you can believe it. But yeah, really happy with my shawl so far. This one, so this is probably, might be suggested that I'm leaving it late, but I have already knitted a jumper and a miniature wall hanging for the occasion. But my sister will be having a C-section next Monday. As you can see, it's not blocked, and I'm just making a tiny jumper that is going to ideally be for the winter season, but he might be quite a big boy, so you know, it might only fit for a couple of the months in autumn. But I have done quite a big size based on the flax pattern with a few minor adjustments. As you can see, I am using, well, you might not be able to tell from that far away, Catherine Weaver. So I'm using a DK weight yarn. This is Drops Lima, and I went down needle size, I believe, and then went up a couple of sizes than I intended. So yeah, there's that. And what I'm going to do, because I knitted my sister a Harry Potter jumper, I'm going to do a little duplicate stitch F, which I've realised is way better than trying to knit it in. As a very new knitter, the jumper that I produced for my sister should and could have been a lot better, but we all learn, we all live and learn, and that's fine. So little Flynn is going to have a bit of teal in honour of the yarn that I dyed for my sister. This one is, I think it's the Rowan alpaca tweed. It's what I used for the mittens that I made as one of my first projects, and I just thought this is a really fun combination. My sister loves teal. I've already knitted crocheted a little bee wall hanging in yellow, and I just thought it'd be really cute. I got inspired to cast on just because, why not? Trying to share out my knitting love. So that's coming along. That should be finished fairly quickly. I knitted pretty much all of that. Yeah, apart from maybe 2 inches of the yoke while we watched Frozen 2, which was fun. And yeah, we are racing through today, I think. And I thought I'd bring this down to share. So we have been in our little Discord group, which is really nice. There's about 40 of us now, all knitters having a little chat day in, day out about knitting. We've got some D&D threads, we've got chat on films. It's really nice. But we do have a thread which is our ranunculus knit along, which is completely no pressure, just supporting each other. Especially, yeah, it's wonderful. If you haven't knitted a lot of texture before or you're new, it's been quite nice to read everyone's help and everyone chiming in, and there's already been a few finished projects that are absolutely stunning. Now, this one I didn't put on Ravelry, so I really should photograph it while it's still got a bit of life in. So I'm going to repeat this version. So I have knitted it in a heavier weight twice, so this will be the second time, or the fourth time knitting, but the second time mohair. This one was using Isega mohair in sort of a blush colour, and it just uses one skein, so it's 400 meters, which is perfect. So if you've got any mohair, this is ideal. But I cast on, and I should dig out the yarn, but I cast it on in a gorgeous burnt orange that was a gift for me from Alex, La Bien-Aimée Rust, and it was just really bright, and I just couldn't imagine, and even Alex agreed, I couldn't imagine myself wearing it. So I've got a little bit of West Yorkshire Spinners nutmeg colour in a heavy weight, so that hopefully I can knit a garment with it and mute it down slightly. So I ripped back, and I was a bit not upset, but I really did want to join in with this, and yet I also only wanted to knit it if I know that I'm going to wear it. I do think that's quite important. I mean, you can always gift stuff, I know that, but I was looking at the projects that I have on my needles, and I did do a big mass ripping back frogging session a little while ago, but I had a lace shawl, and it's the shawl for an art lover, and it's gorgeous, and I'd started it in black mohair, and although it was beautiful, the mohair on its own round my neck didn't feel fantastic. And it's not that it felt bad, but for such a beautiful piece, I feel like it needs to be really perfect. And I was umming and ahhing, and I decided to rip it out, and I would like to knit it again in something that is more appropriate. It did look a bit like a funeral piece, and that's fine, that is fine. It wasn't like a cool gothy vibe, it was just a bit funeral, and I don't, even at a funeral I maybe don't want to be quite so. So anyway, I digress. So I decided to rip it out and make another ranunculus in black, because I throw this one on a lot, but I've got quite a few pieces that it just doesn't work with. Whereas this will go with basically everything. This is really cute over dresses, skirts, jumpsuits even, you know, it's lovely. And it's good for layering because it is quite warm, but not overly warm, so when it slightly gets cooler in the summer evenings, not that we're really having summer anymore apparently, which is fine. So black, I cast this on last night. Again, we watched The Mummy, the new one with Tom Cruise. It might be quite old now, but at the rate we watch films, we've been watching quite a bit of TV recently, which is weird, but it's fine. But yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. I have still left the yarn in from the tubular cast on that I did. No other reason than when I'm working on such a large cable, I don't have any smaller cables. It does help keep the stitches close together, which seems to make it easier for me to knit. But I really love this pattern. I think it's a nicely written pattern. I know that there's some knitters have a little bit of trouble with it, but there are videos, and like I said, we've got a really nice little group which are helping one another to get through the pattern with ease. Yeah, drops mohair again in black, and I'm excited to wear it. And this one is living in my own bag that my aunt very kindly printed for me. I have a couple more of these that I am due to do a giveaway very soon. I do have a couple more unused up there. Yeah, mohair no problems, because we all know I love the mohair. And I very much hope that I do get to go and visit some mohair goats this year. But it's looking less and less likely, but that's fine. There's always going to be more time. I did want to show you. Now, another few of them are living on another project. But I received this gorgeous gift, and that's sort of, I guess it does tie in with giveaways too. Come on, there we go. How gorgeous is that stitch marker? She's so clever. So, the lovely Nicole, also known as Time Weaver, which I've always found quite, I don't know, serendipitous almost. Nicole uses a surname, well, uses my surname in her name on Instagram, and I thought her real name was Time Weaver to begin with. I got that very wrong, but I just thought it was very, you know, do-do-do-do. Maybe the coffee is sinking in now. Takes about 22 minutes, which I'm sure I've said here before. So these are the ones that I will be giving away. Wakey wakey. I'm going to leave them in the packing, even though that it might make it a little bit more difficult for you to see them. But these are gorgeous. These ones are called Colours That Taste Like Good Weather, and they're coral. And I mean, yeah, they are. She's so clever. So clever. But I have opted to keep 2 sets, and it's only because they're too beautiful. They are living in this bizarre little, I don't need to be in focus anymore, guys. Yeah, bizarre little pot that I got from Camden Market when I believe I must have been like 12 years old. But I'll show you just a couple more, because they're so pretty. And you can understand why I've opted to keep them. It's cheeky, but... So there's all of these ones are green and purple, and we know I love olive green. We know that I love jadey green and purple. And they just slide around so nicely too. I've never used any that are both this light. They're just lovely. And I found that knitting flat and working in the round, you can whoop, just flick the stone to the back, and it's just lovely. It's really nice. And then I guess, I don't know why I'm going to show these, but I made them very quickly, and I might make a few more pairs. But we know I like mohair, and sometimes I wear red lipstick, not very often. But I do also have a beret and my cardigan in this colourway, and I haven't seen mohair tassels, so I made myself a pair of earrings using my Beehive Yarns Red Raven colour with both mohair and sock yarn, and I just think they're really fun. I'm going to do a few more pairs of these, I think, for myself. I might put some up to share. They obviously won't be the most expensive thing, but tell me what you think. I'm actually quite liking them with my crazy hair. But I thought it was a really cool way to use up those bits of special yarn, you know, that otherwise you really can't get a project out of something like this. I do have a little bit more of this yarn though. I could definitely do a few more pairs. But yeah, I've also been using them as stitch markers too, so stitch marker meets earrings. I have just spotted in the corner of my living room. What are you doing in here? Oh no. Oh. There's a snail living on the corner of the door opening, so he's snuck in somewhere. And while I'm on the subject of snails, I thought I would share you. Alex had an epiphany. That's definitely not an epiphany. He sat down and was like, could you race a snail, or could you knit as fast as a snail can move? Alex has been watching me knit for not too short of 2 years now. I'm quite excited at the prospect of 2 years. Maybe we'll aim for the giveaway then. But I kind of was like, I don't actually know. And he did a bit of research and he has decided that we need to put it into practice. So this weekend we are going to have the fun task of myself racing snails while knitting, apparently. So I'm going to be knitting, and Archie is the quickest garden snail, I believe, ever recorded. So we're going to maybe do a timed against that, and then we're going to get a snail, because we have hundreds of snails in our garden that have been eating basically everything and anything. So we're going to do that. So stick around. I might release it next week just because I think that it deserves its own little mini episode. Anyway, on that note, I think at the end of, so just coming up, will be some footage of our little wander we had around the Knepp estate, which was really gorgeous. If you're in the UK and you haven't visited, I can highly recommend it. We saw some wonderful wildlife, including storks breeding. A couple of the babies have fledged, and there's footage of that on the Knepp Safaris, I believe, Instagram. But apparently they haven't bred in the UK for about 400 years, so it's quite amazing that we got to go and see them. We saw deer, cows, and spotted quite a few wildflowers and butterflies, and I even made friends with a bunny rabbit. Now, I don't like to pick up and touch animals in the wild, and it's not because I don't want to, because trust me, and especially at the moment with the virus, but this bunny rabbit was tiny and it wasn't moving. It was very much in the road, and there was dog walkers before and after us, and I was quite nervous, so I picked it up and gave it a little check over, offered it some water, and then put it back to where it was, but a little further in, so hopefully it will be undisturbed. But yeah, it was a wonderful weekend, and that is everything. I hope you have had a lovely few weeks. As always, it's been lovely to connect with the knitting community. We do have our Discord, and anyone is welcome to join. We do aim to have a knit night virtually on a Monday. This Monday, unfortunately, most of us were actually busy, and then this coming Monday I'm busy, but the way that Discord works, if you've not used it before, means that you can just jump into the chat at any given time, and you can do voice only if you don't really want to be seen, and you can do video as well. So it is wonderful, and we're hoping to have a couple more extra ones because we've missed our usual nights. So yeah, it's international, which is cool too. So some of us are basically more than ready for bed, and some of us are just starting their day. Yeah, on that, I hope you have had a lovely few weeks. I hope to speak to you again very soon, and yeah, pattern will release Monday, so I won't be on here really to say, well, it's live, but it's okay. Anyway, I hope you're looking after yourself and your loved ones, and I hope to speak to you again very soon. So from here, this is all footage from Knepp. I do really recommend having a little look on the Knepp estate on Instagram. Obviously that's just a really good way of seeing things, and they've got quite a lot of good information and up-to-date footage of the stalks and things if you're interested.
And just a short bit of footage from a walk we went on with my parents' dog Mia. And bonus geese footage because geese. Thank you so much for joining me.